In the quiet corners of Asia, where alleyways breathe with secrets, where the past is never truly buried, and names, once whispered, refuse to die. There are stories we're told not to remember, because remembering gives them power. But forgetting, that's what lets them in. Wind picks up, a low hum like a voice in static. This is Ghosts of Asia, where the unseen walks among the living, and the most terrifying hauntings begin with something small. A name on a mailbox, a breath through the wall, a memory you never made, but somehow remember. Tonight, we tell the story of a woman who lived alone until something else started living as her. Her name was deleted from the mailbox. Posto kara kesareta namae.
Mio didn't choose the apartment because it was beautiful. She chose it because it was quiet and cheap. Apartment 302 in a worn-out building tucked behind a shuttered elementary school in Setagaya. Boxy layout, fluorescent lights that hummed like they had secrets. The walls so thin she could hear her upstairs neighbor breathe when he slept, or maybe snore with his mouth open, but even that was oddly comforting. The building was called Komorebi Heights, though there was nothing poetic about it. No dancing sunlight, just gray walls, rust-streaked balconies, and a metal gate that creaked when the wind picked up. It hadn't been renovated since the late 80s, maybe early 90s. The kind of place realtory didn't show in brochures. The kind of place you found because the rent was too low to ignore. And for someone like Mio, that was enough. She moved in with 2 suitcases, a kettle, and a laptop. No welcome party, no ceremony, just a young woman stepping into the echo of someone else's life. The first thing she noticed was the mailbox. By the front entrance, rows of metallic boxes lined the wall like forgotten coffins. Each had a slot for mail and a plastic window for name tags. Most were yellowed with time. A few had stickers, Hello Kitty, or masking tape with kanji scribbled in pen. Only hers was new, crisp, white, freshly printed. Mio Kagawa, 302. She touched it absently. The paper was still stiff, not yet wilted from humidity. A small piece of her finally felt real, settled. She glanced down at the mailbox beneath hers, room 301. It was empty. No sticker, no tape, not even a scratched outline of a name once there. Just a clear plastic window, blank as the dead. Later that evening, she asked the landlord about it. He was a small man, pushing 70, with a slight hunch and an old flip phone. His jacket smelled faintly of mothballs. Room 301? He repeated, picking at his teeth with a toothpick. Ah, no one's lived there for years. Really? I thought it was just vacant recently. He chuckled. No, maybe since 2020, around the pandemic. Haven't found anyone who wants it. Why not? Who knows? He shrugged. Old building, no elevator. People want fancy these days. She nodded, trying to smile. There was something unnerving about how casually he dismissed it. Before she turned to go, he added without looking up, "But if you hear things, probably the pipes." The first week passed like a blur of silence. Mio worked from home, writing copy for brands she'd never use, answering emails from people she never met. She rarely left the apartment except to buy konbini dinners or check the mailbox. She liked routines. They made her feel visible. On the 7th day, she opened her mailbox and found 3 envelopes. 2 were bills, One was different. It had no stamp, no return address, no seal. Just a thin, old envelope, browned at the corners, with a line of black ink scrawled across the center. To the girl who never left. Her fingers tingled. She looked around. No one was there. The wind rustled the plastic banners tied to the chain-link fence across the street. Somewhere a cat meowed once, and then fell silent. Mio slid the letter into her hoodie pocket and climbed the stairs. Inside her apartment, she sat at the small table by the window, staring at the envelope. She told herself it was a mistake, a prank, maybe a weird neighbor with a bad sense of humor. Still, her hand trembled as she tore it open. Inside was a single slip of yellowing paper, a sentence written in careful, slanted handwriting. "Don't forget me again." That night, Mio didn't sleep. Over the next few days, it happened again. Another letter. Same kind of envelope, no stamp, no markings, same handwriting. "She hears you breathe through the wall." She dropped it the moment she read it. Her chest tightened. She turned toward the wall behind her bed, the one shared with room 301. It was silent. She pressed her palm against the wallpaper. It felt cold, thin. The kind of cold that doesn't come from weather, but from memory. On the 10th day, she called the landlord again. "Did someone move into 301? He seemed confused. "I told you it's empty." "Are you sure?" "Positive. Why?" She hesitated. "I've been getting mail, strange letters." "Ah, kids. Maybe someone messing around. It happens." But she could hear it in his voice, a slight pause, something unsaid, something remembered. She hung up before he could say more. That evening, she stood in front of the mailboxes again. She stared at the empty slot below hers. It was still blank, still soulless. On impulse, she reached into her bag and pulled out a pen and scribbled on a sticky note. "If anyone lives here, please contact Mio, room 302. She tucked it into the plastic window, just in case. In her dreams that night, she heard a voice whispering through the wall. Soft, wet. It didn't speak words, it breathed them. When she woke, her heart racing, she rushed downstairs barefoot. The sticky note was gone. And in its place, carefully centered in the mailbox window, Sakura Aiba. Welcome home. The next morning, Mio stood frozen in front of the mailbox. The new nameplate hadn't vanished overnight. It was still there. Sakura Aiba, welcome home. Written in a careful hand, centered, neat, almost ceremonial. But no one had entered or exited room 301. No footsteps, no voices, no sounds of furniture being moved in. Just the name. A name that had no right to return. She asked the landlord again, "Are you absolutely sure room 301 is empty?" He looked at her with an odd mixture of patience and something else. Not quite fear, not quite guilt. Like I said, no one's rented it in years. Then who's Sakura Aiba? His brows drew together slowly. He licked his lips. That name sounds familiar. Did she live here before? Maybe. I'd have to check the files. Then he said, almost too casually, "Some tenants leave without saying goodbye." Back in her room, Mio typed the name into her laptop, Sakura Aiba. There were a few generic results, Facebook profiles, outdated blog entries, an archived school newsletter from 2019 that listed her as missing, contact police with any information. But no updates, no closure, no obituary. Just a digital afterimage, a footprint left in drying cement. Mio shut the laptop and stared at the wall again, the one she shared with 301. She leaned in. It was quiet, but not still. The silence was full of something, like breath held too long. The next envelope arrived 2 days later. It had been slipped into her mailbox, not 301. Still no stamp, still no return address. But this time, the paper was older. Faded ink, curled corners. And when she opened it, the writing looked shakier. If they erase your name, you'll fade too. She read it twice, then a third time. A chill crept from her fingertips to her spine. It wasn't just a warning, it was a pattern. That evening, she walked the hallway outside room 301, her bare feet on the cool floor. A single overhead bulb buzzed softly. She stood in front of the door, staring at it. It was dusty, the doorbell was missing, but the lock looked recently used. She reached out and touched the handle. It was warm. She snatched her hand back. That night she dreamed of a hallway, endless, flickering. Every door was open except hers. She ran from door to door, calling her name, but the name wouldn't leave her mouth. She looked down. Her body was translucent, thin. She could see the floor through her hands. Mia woke to her phone buzzing, a notification from her delivery app. Failed to locate address. Your order has been canceled. She checked the app settings. Her address was correct, 302 Komorebi Heights. She tried again. The app now showed an error. Invalid location, unit does not exist. She sat in stunned silence. Then she tried Uber Eats. Same thing. Amazon? Blocked. As if the world had misplaced her. Desperate for something tangible, Mia walked to the corner store and mailed a postcard to herself, just to prove she existed. She printed her name clearly, Mio Kagawa, apartment 302, then waited. 3 days passed. It never arrived. Instead, she received another letter. Same handwriting, same paper. This one was different. It wasn't just a sentence, it was a question. What name will they bury you under? Mio dropped the letter. She pressed her hands to her chest. Her heart was pounding too fast, too loud, like it was trying to outrun something coming closer. Later, she found herself back at the mailboxes, looking at the 2 windows side by side. Sakura Aiba, Mio Kagawa, side by side. She pulled out a marker from her bag and wrote her name again, bolder this time. Pressed the new label flat against the plastic, taped it down. She stood there for minutes, watching it, daring it to move. Nothing happened. That night she stayed up alert, listening. But at some point, exhaustion claimed her. She drifted into uneasy sleep. And in the morning, her name was gone. Completely. Not just peeled off, gone. As if it had never been there. And in its place, nothing. Just a blank window. While Sakura Aiba remained steady, undisturbed. Mio sat at her kitchen table with a steaming cup of tea she didn't remember making. The name was gone. Her name. Not scratched out, not torn, erased, as if she had never lived there. She pressed the cup to her lips, her hands trembling. This was how it began, wasn't it? With small disappearances, things that made you question if you were being haunted or if you were simply being forgotten. She opened her laptop, needing something to ground her, but even that felt off. Her desktop name had reset to Untitled. Her Zoom account showed her as unknown user. Her profile picture was missing. She scrolled through her contacts. Most were grayed out. Emails marked as undelivered. Slack channels archived or locked. Then she checked her chat history. The last message she sent to her coworker yesterday, "Morning, quick question about the ad copy," had been replied to with, "Sorry, who is this?" Her stomach tightened. She stood, crossed the room to her tiny mirror by the entryway. Her reflection looked the same, but as she stared, her name refused to surface in her mind. She whispered it aloud, Mio Kagawa. It sounded foreign in her mouth, like borrowing someone else's name. Later that evening, she called her mother. The phone rang longer than usual. Her mother answered, calm but confused. "Hello? Hi, Mom. It's me." A pause. "Who?" "It's Mio." Silence. Then softly, "I'm sorry. I don't have a daughter by that name." Click. The line went dead. Mio dropped the phone. Her hands were cold, her lips numb. She dialed again. This time, the number no longer existed. She sat on the floor, knees to chest. The apartment felt smaller, tighter, like the walls were listening. That night, she taped her name to every surface: the bathroom mirror, the fridge, her phone case, sticky notes on her pillow. She wrote it over and over. Mio Kagawa, Mio Kagawa, Mio Kagawa. But no matter how many times she wrote it, it felt weaker, as if her own identity was bleeding through the page. Another envelope arrived the next morning. This one was soaked, like it had been left in the rain, but the sky had been clear for days. The message was smudged, but still legible. "She doesn't need to hurt you. You'll vanish on your own." She dropped it like it was on fire. The paper stuck slightly to her fingers, as if it wanted to stay. She went to the hallway mirror next to the stairs, the one the building used for residents to check themselves before leaving. She hadn't really looked at herself there before, but now she stood in front of it and stared. The reflection was off. It followed her movements, but delayed, a second too late. Then it smiled, but she hadn't. She stumbled back, raced up the stairs, slammed the door behind her. She began pacing, speaking aloud to the empty room. "My name is Mio Kagawa. I live in apartment 302. I moved here 2 weeks ago. I exist. I exist." She waited for silence to confirm it, but the room said nothing back. Earlier, desperate, she typed into a local neighborhood forum, "Does anyone remember the girl in apartment 301, Sakura Aiba?" No replies. She tried Google again, typed, "How to stop being forgotten." The results were absurd. Memory games, Alzheimer's prevention tips, a self-help blog titled, "You Matter Even When No One Remembers You." Then something caught her eye. A short, untranslated article from 2021, a Buddhist monk's commentary on Muenbotoke, the forgotten dead. A soul without ties becomes unanchored. When the living cease to speak their name, perform their rites, or carry them in memory, they begin to drift. But in that drifting, they crave shape again, a face, a name, a place to return to, and sometimes they borrow yours. Mio exhaled shakily. This wasn't a haunting. It was a replacement. That evening, she went downstairs to the mailboxes again, and for the first time, her mailbox was sealed shut. No keyhole, no paper, no slot. Just smooth metal where her name had once been. She turned to the one below. Sakura Aiba. Still there, untouched, permanent. Mio whispered to the hallway, "I'm not gone." But the light above her buzzed once, then flickered out.
The fourth time Mio tried to log into her bank account, the screen flashed red. "User not recognized. Please re-register." She checked the name on the screen. Sakura Aiba. Her stomach flipped. She refreshed the page. Same result. She tried again, slowly typing in her email and password. No such user. She sat back in her chair. This wasn't just a glitch. Her name was being overwritten. She grabbed her ID card from her wallet, held it to the light. The name printed there was blurred, not scratched out, not defaced, just softened, like ink washed under water. She stared at the card, willing the name to sharpen, but it refused. And under her breath, she whispered, "I'm still here." Later that day, Mio opened her door to check for mail, but the hallway had changed. It was hard to describe. The angles were wrong, subtle curves where there were once straight lines. The shadows lingered longer, like the light was bending around something it couldn't see. When she reached the mailbox, her breath caught. It was back. Her nameplate, Mio Kagawa, had returned, but only halfway. The label was torn, dangling by one corner, and underneath it, pressed tightly against the glass, was a fresh slip of paper. Sakura Aiba, welcome home, written in that same careful, slanted hand. Mio peeled away the torn label and backed away. It felt final. She knocked on room 301, not expecting a response. But the moment her knuckles met the wood, she heard movement, a soft shuffle, the faint sound of a drawer sliding shut. She froze, pressed her ear to the door. Someone or something was inside, breathing, shallow, rhythmic, like a child asleep. She stepped back, then fled. That night, she tried to FaceTime her coworker, Yui. The screen connected, but all Mio saw was static. Yui's voice came through, faint and distorted. "Hello?" She shouted, "Mio, I'm here!" But the voice crackled. "Who's this? There's no name!" The call dropped. The next morning, her food delivery app had wiped her saved address. She re-entered it manually. But when she typed Komorebi Heights, apartment 302, the app blinked once, then auto-corrected to Sakura Aiba 301. She stared at the screen. She deleted it, re-entered her name. Again, it changed. Sakura Aiba 301. No matter what she typed, no matter what she was, the system had already decided she was gone. Mio tried walking outside, just to feel the street under her feet. She passed neighbors she didn't know, who didn't nod or glance her way. She reached for the mailboxes again, hoping to rip out the paper, tear away the name, the message, the ghost. But it was locked. Not just her mailbox, all of them. The entire row sealed, frozen in metal. She felt like an intruder in her own life. Back inside, her apartment felt colder. She checked the windows. Closed. She turned off the AC. Still cold. as if something had entered the space and didn't care about warmth. She walked to the bathroom and looked in the mirror. This time, the reflection looked back at her with a calm, almost pitiful expression. Then its lips moved without her. It whispered something. Mio leaned in. She couldn't hear it, but she understood. Let go. She tore down every sticky note, every name she had written, crumpled them in her fists, screamed into the empty air. I will not disappear! She grabbed a permanent marker and ran downstairs. The mailbox window was still locked, so she crouched and wrote in thick black ink on the steel below, I live here. That night her phone buzzed. Unknown number. No caller ID. A single message. A video file. She hesitated, then tapped to open it. The screen showed the lobby, the building's security cam footage. She watched as a woman entered through the glass door. She was wearing Mio's hoodie, Mio's jeans, Mio's face. She walked straight to the mailbox, pulled out Mio's name, and carefully, lovingly, slid in a new one. Sakura Aba, welcome home. Then she turned to the camera and smiled. Dead eyes, perfect mimicry, but not her. Mio dropped the phone, ran downstairs. The hallway was darker than usual. The lights buzzed but didn't flicker on. At her mailbox was a small brown package. She hadn't ordered anything. It was wrapped in paper, tied with red string. Her hand shook as she picked it up. The tag read, To Sakura Aba, room 302. She stared at it. This wasn't a mistake anymore. It was a replacement notice. She took it upstairs, sat on the floor, untied the red string. Inside was a single white envelope, no return address, no name. She opened it and found only two things: a blank name tag and a small mirror, cracked clean down the center. The cracked mirror sat on her floor like a wound that wouldn't heal. Mio didn't touch it again. She placed it back into the brown package, wrapped the red string around it tightly, and shoved it under the bed. But even hidden, she could feel it, like a second heartbeat pulsing beneath her floorboards. For 2 days, she stayed in the apartment, barely eating, barely moving. She kept checking the mirror above her bathroom sink. Each time, her reflection was a little more hesitant, like it wasn't sure it should still be there. She stopped brushing her hair, stopped putting on makeup. What was the point? She was fading, and it was winning. That evening, a sound woke her. Not a dream, not the wind. A soft, steady breathing coming from the wall beside her bed, the wall she shared with room 301. She sat up slowly. It wasn't a pipe, not the hum of electricity. It was unmistakably human. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Soft, female, close, too close. Mio pressed her ear to the wall. It was coming from just behind the plaster, as if someone were lying there, just on the other side, listening, breathing with her. She whispered, "Who are you?" No answer, only silence. Then, softly, her own voice echoed back, but wrong. "Who are you?" She screamed and backed away from the wall, stumbling over the rug. The lights flickered, the room spun. Her phone slipped from her hand and clattered to the floor. When she picked it up, the home screen was gone. replaced by a single message: "Welcome back, Sakura." She ran outside in the middle of the night, barefoot, shivering. She banged on the landlord's door. After what felt like forever, he answered, bleary-eyed, confused. "What happened?" he muttered. "I need to know about room 301. I need to know who Sakura Aiba was. I'm being erased." He blinked, his eyes suddenly sharper, older. "She's not someone you should go looking for," he said. "Please!" He stepped aside and gestured for her to come in. His apartment was cluttered, dim, filled with yellowing books and the faint smell of incense and mold. He handed her an old folder, dusty, water-stained. Inside, rental agreements, ID copies, outdated emergency contact forms. He tapped one with his finger. "Sakura Aiba, tenant, room 301. Move in, April 2019. Status, unknown. Last seen, May 2020. She moved in just before the first lockdown," he said. "Quiet girl, lived alone, worked from home, didn't speak to anyone, just like you." "What happened to her?" He paused. "No one knows. One day her mailbox overflowed. No sound from the room. Police broke in. The apartment was empty." "Empty?" "Nothing inside. No bed, no dishes, just a mirror on the floor, cracked." Mio's mouth dried. He continued, "No signs of a struggle, no prints, just nothing. Like she was never there. Her family had no idea, said she'd cut contact years before." Mio whispered, "Did anyone pray for her? Perform rites?" He looked away. She had no family to claim her. No funeral. Just vanished. Back in her room, Mio sat on the floor, staring at her wall. She finally understood. Sakura hadn't died. She had disappeared. And in disappearing, she had become something else. A spirit not born from anger or revenge, but from being unremembered. Mio searched the internet again, deeper this time. She found articles on Muenbotoke, the forgotten dead. No grave, no name, no family. Spirits who drifted like fog, drawn to the lonely, those who didn't speak to neighbors, didn't celebrate holidays, didn't attend weddings, the ones who let their own names grow faint with time. Late that night, the breathing returned, stronger now, desperate, wet. It came in bursts, like sobbing from inside the wall. She stood frozen by the bed, and then she heard something scrape, a slow drag across drywall. She ran to the hallway and knocked on 301 again, shouting, "I know who you are!" No reply. She pressed her face to the door. Inside, something whispered her name. Only it wasn't quite right. It stuttered, echoed. Mio? Sakura? The next morning, she found her door slightly ajar. She was sure she had locked it. On the floor of the hallway was a letter, different this time. Black envelope, no return address, thick parchment inside. The name must be remembered, or it will consume the next one. Below the message was a single line, "You are next." In a panic, she went back to the landlord. "You have to bless the room. You have to exorcise it or purify it, anything." He looked exhausted. "You think I haven't tried?" he muttered. "Then what happened?" He looked her dead in the eyes. "Everyone I brought in forgot why they were here. A priest came once, left halfway through, said he didn't remember what I asked him to do. Another monk came, spoke her name, then went silent, never came back. Mio stepped back. The building itself was forgetting and taking everything with it. That night, she taped a new name tag to her mailbox. Not her own, but Sakura Aiba. Underneath, she added a second line in red ink. I remember you. Then she whispered her name 3 times like a prayer and walked back upstairs. At 3:02 a.m., she awoke to the sound of someone gently knocking on the other side of the wall. Knock, knock, knock. She pressed her hand to the plaster, and for the first time, something pressed back. The knock didn't come again. Just once. 3 soft taps through the wall, and then silence. But something had shifted. Not outside her, inside. Mio sat cross-legged on the cold floor, her back against the wall where the knock had come. She stayed there for hours, as dawn painted gray across the sky, listening for anything else. Nothing came. No footsteps, no voices, no whisper of breath. Only the weight of a presence, one that didn't move, didn't speak, but simply waited. By noon, she couldn't take it anymore. She needed answers that Google wouldn't give her. She packed her laptop, grabbed a hoodie, and took the train across the city to Shimokitazawa, where an old friend from university still worked as a researcher of religious anthropology. His name was Keita Sano, and he greeted her with a surprised smile, though he noticed the shadows under her eyes before she even sat down. You look like you haven't slept in weeks, he said gently. Mio didn't respond. She just pulled a letter from her bag, the black envelope from the hallway, and slid it across the table. Keita's eyes narrowed. Where did you get this? From my apartment building. From her. He opened it, read the message silently, then again, slower. His hand tightened around the paper. He didn't look up as he spoke. Do you know what a Muenbotoke is? She nodded. A forgotten ghost. A spirit with no ties, no funeral, no family, no one left to remember them. Keita finally looked up. It's more than that. A Muenbotoke isn't just lonely. It's empty. It doesn't know it's dead. It only knows it was erased. He paused. And in that emptiness, it clings, not violently, not like Western ghosts, but quietly, like fog, like shadow. It becomes a parasite. Mio whispered, A parasite? He nodded. It attaches to someone similar, someone alone, someone unseen, and begins replacing them. But it does it slowly, by removing you piece by piece. Your name, your face, your place in the world. He tapped the envelope again, until one day, there's nothing left of you, and all that remains is her. Mio stared at him. Is there a way to stop it? He hesitated. In some old texts, there's mention of a reversal ritual, but it's dangerous. She leaned in. Tell me. You have to anchor yourself again, through memory, through name, through witness. You need someone living to speak your name, hold it for you, bind you to this world. He looked down. But if no one remembers you? She swallowed. Then what? Keita's voice dropped. Then you become the one behind the wall. Mio left his office with a strange tightness in her chest. The streets felt louder than usual, brighter, but everything passed through her like mist. She tried calling her mother again, disconnected. She tried texting Yui, no reply. She checked her phone contacts, all gone. Her screen flashed once, then again, and then the device shut itself off. Back at Komorebi Heights, the building greeted her like a mouth half closed. The hallway was too still, the silence too thick. As she climbed the stairs, the lights above her buzzed. One by one, they dimmed behind her. Not flickering, giving up. Outside room 301, Mio stood still. The door was slightly open. It had never been opened before. She pushed gently. It creaked, slow and soft, like a breath inhaled through teeth. Inside was darkness, but not just the absence of light. A presence, a weight, a pressure in the air, thick and damp. She took a step forward, but something stopped her. Not fear, not cold, something older, primal. Like stepping onto a grave you didn't know was there until it sighed beneath your feet. She backed away. In her apartment, she lit every light, every room. She wrote her name on the mirror again, on her window, on her own skin. Mio Kagawa, Mio Kagawa, Mio Kagawa. But even her own handwriting started to look wrong. Letters warped. The ink bled. One note peeled from the mirror without explanation and drifted to the ground. The back was blank. She hadn't written anything at all. That night, she dreamed of herself, standing in front of the mailboxes, pulling out the old nameplate and sliding in a new one, Sakura Aiba, smiling into the reflection of the metal. And when Dream Mio turned, her eyes were hollow. She woke up screaming, but the scream felt too distant, too soft, almost someone else's. She opened the closet to grab new clothes, and she saw something that didn't belong. Folded on the shelf was a pale yellow cardigan, not hers. And resting on top was a photograph, faded, corners curled, unlabeled. It showed a girl standing alone outside Komorebi Heights, staring up at the window of room 302. She was wearing the cardigan. She looked like Mio, but it wasn't her. On the back of the photo, something had been written in small, shaky kanji. Thank you for remembering me. Below that, in English, Sakura.
It started with the delivery man, a young guy in a black cap and oversized jacket, holding a small box of groceries. He stood at the entrance of Komorebi Heights, confused. Name? He asked through the speaker. Mio Kagawa, she said. A pause. Apartment number? 302? Another pause. Longer this time. I don't see that name here. Mio leaned into the intercom. I ordered it 30 minutes ago. Look again. The line crackled. Then flatly. Room 302 isn't listed on the panel. She hung up and ran down the stairs barefoot. When she reached the building entrance, the delivery man was already gone.
but what he said echoed in her head like a chant. Room 302 isn't listed. She stared at the intercom panel. It was metallic, outdated, buzzing slightly. Her hand hovered over the buttons. She scanned the names: Apartment 201, Apartment 202, 203, 204. No 302. Her finger trembled as it hovered where her name should have been. The small rectangular space beside the number was blank. Not scratched, not empty, just missing. As if 302 had never existed at all. Back in her room, she slammed the door and pressed her back against it. The lights flickered above her. She turned to look at the hallway. It seemed longer than before, not physically, but emotionally, like the space between doors had grown heavier. She looked at her doormat, once soft beige, now faded. The printed 302 lettering on the edge had vanished. She called her landlord again. His voice was strange this time, distant, like he was underwater. "This is Mio Kagawa, apartment 302? A beat of silence. Then, "Who?" "It's me. I've called you before. We spoke about Sakura Aiba." Long pause. "I'm sorry, that unit's been vacant for years." "No, it's not. I'm in it right now." But the line disconnected. She redialed. Number unreachable. That night, she opened Zoom for her weekly work meeting. Her face appeared in the little preview window, pale, hollow-eyed. She adjusted her camera. The screen blinked, then froze. The meeting opened, dozens of boxes with coworkers chatting, waving, sipping coffee. "Hey everyone," she said. No one responded. She unmuted again, louder. "Can you hear me?" Still nothing. In the bottom corner, a small error popped up. "Unknown user has joined the meeting." Her name was gone. Her presence was marked as a glitch. And in the chat, "Who's that? Do we know her?" "Weird. Looks familiar, but no name showing." She turned off her camera, logged out, stared into her own dark reflection on the black screen. Something was sitting behind her in the reflection, just barely visible, a flicker of long hair, a shape, shoulders, a neck, and a face just off-center. She spun around. Nothing. Just her room. Still. Cold. Empty. She pulled the mirror out from under the bed, the one from the package. The crack now ran deeper. It had spread like lightning, branching into both sides. She looked into it. Her reflection didn't quite match her. It moved slower, lagging. Then it blinked before she did, and smiled. She tried again, pulled out her ID card, her student ID, her insurance form. All fading. Some were smudged, others blurred into blankness, like the ink had been poured into water. She typed her name into a document, then copied and pasted it over and over. Mio Kagawa, Mio Kagawa, Mio Kagawa. She stared. Each one looked less familiar, as if she was reading a name she used to know in childhood, like reading a memory that was no longer hers. Later, she walked downstairs in silence. The building was too quiet now. The usual sounds, the upstairs neighbor's TV, the wind against the window, the soft shuffle of shoes, were gone, erased. Only one sound remained. Breathing. It came from inside the intercom box, faint, wet, repeating, like someone trying to speak, but only remembering how to exhale. She pressed her ear to the speaker, and from deep within the static, a voice emerged, her own voice, but spoken by someone else. "You left me behind. Now I remember you. Now we can trade." She fell backward, ran up the stairs, slammed the door, locked it 3 times. The lights in her apartment began to hum. All at once, the air felt thicker, warmer, like something had entered. She walked to the bathroom, looked in her reflection. This time, it wasn't smiling. It was crying. Tears rolling down a face that wasn't moving. Her lips were still, but in the mirror, they shook. That night, a package arrived. Same brown paper, same red string. Inside, one single object. Her old nameplate, the one that once said Mio Kagawa. Now stained, faded, and on the back, written in fine, neat letters, "Thank you for the room." Her name was no longer on the mailbox. It wasn't in the intercom system. Not in her phone, not in her accounts, not even in her memory, if she was honest. Because when she tried to say it now, it didn't feel like it belonged to her anymore. Mio Kagawa. 2 words, just sounds. She mouthed them slowly in the mirror, watching the shape of her lips, trying to remember if they had ever felt like home. They didn't. Her laptop greeted her with a blank login. No saved accounts, no autofill. The background photo she had used for years, her mother's garden in spring, was gone, replaced by pure black. At the center of the screen, a spinning wheel, then a single word, unknown. She moved the mouse. It didn't register. She typed randomly, just to provoke something. The screen went dark, then flickered back. A single prompt now hovered. Do you remember who you were? Y or N? She didn't type anything. She simply closed the laptop, slowly, as if it were a mouth trying to speak her eulogy. She called her mother again. This time, a different voice answered. A woman, gentle, older. "Hello?" Mio blinked. "Mom?" A pause. Then kindly, "I think you have the wrong number. This is Mio." "I'm sorry, I don't know any Mio. I'm your daughter." A short silence. Then softly, with a tinge of fear, "My daughter passed away 4 years ago." Click. The apartment didn't feel like hers anymore. The colors were off. The floor creaked in the wrong places. The smell was different, like dried flowers, old water, and something sweet underneath, rotting slowly. Even the kettle whistled at a different pitch, higher, sharper, like a scream turned polite. She began to find things that didn't belong. A pair of pale pink slippers at the foot of her bed, a pressed handkerchief with the initials S.A., a folded note inside her sock drawer that read, "You're making this harder than it needs to be." And then the worst one. In the kitchen cabinet, behind a row of canned beans, was a photograph, burnt at the edges. It showed her, sitting at the Komoribi Heights mailbox, but the name beside her was Sakura Aiba, and in the reflection on the metal panel, there was another figure, standing behind her, smiling. She tore the photo to pieces and flushed it down the toilet. But the moment she turned around, it was back on the kitchen table, whole, uncreased, impatient. Later, she opened her phone's voice recorder, desperate to hear her own voice to leave a record. She pressed record and whispered into the microphone. "My name is Mio Kagawa. I live in apartment 302. I am real." Then she played it back, only static. She tried again, louder, but when she pressed play, the recording had changed, a different voice now, older, breathier, but still somehow hers. "My name is Sakura Aiba. I never left, and neither will you." She dropped the phone, and from the bedroom she heard laughter, soft, childlike, but coming from the wall. She stepped forward. The laugh stopped. In its place, breathing. She pressed her palm against the plaster, trembling. She could feel warmth now, not cold, as if someone were standing on the other side, leaning against the same spot. Then, a knock, 3 times. Then silence. She whispered, "What do you want from me?" No reply, so she asked again, shaking, "Do you want me to leave?" And then, from behind the wall, "You already did." She backed away slowly. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number, no ID. One message. A single image. It was a screenshot of her Zoom meeting. Her face was in it, but the name beneath the frame now read Sakura Aiba. She collapsed onto the floor, gasping. It was happening. Not quickly, not all at once, but like the tide pulling away her footprints. She was being rewritten, not just erased, replaced. That night she dreamed of mailboxes, dozens of them, stacked like gravestones. Every single one bore the same name, Sakura Aiba. And inside each there was a mirror, and in every mirror her face, but crying, begging to be remembered. She woke with blood on her fingertips, not hers, just a smear, on the pillow, and a new item placed neatly beside her head. A blank ID card, fresh, plastic, no name, no birth date, just a blank photo square, and beneath it, in faint embossed silver, Room 302, Komorebi Heights. The woman in the video was her. Same clothes, same hair, same tired eyes. But it wasn't her. Not really. The security footage had arrived just after midnight. No message, no sender, just a video file named Watch. She hesitated, thumb hovering over the play button before tapping it. The grainy black and white image showed the lobby of Komorebi Heights, still, empty. The camera angle pointed down at the row of mailboxes, and then movement. Someone entered the frame. A woman. Mio leaned closer to the screen. It was her. She walked with Mio's exact posture, carried Mio's bag, even had the same chipped nail polish on her right thumb. But her face, there was something in her face. A stillness, too calm, too empty. She moved directly to the mailbox labeled 302. Mio's label was already gone. Without hesitation, the woman pulled out a small piece of paper from her coat, a fresh name tag. She slid it neatly into the slot. Sakura Aiba, welcome home. Then she turned slowly and looked directly into the camera. The feed flickered, her face pixelated. For a brief moment, it wasn't Mio's face at all, just a blur, a shadow of something that remembered being human. And then, the video ended. Mio stared at the screen for a long time. Her tea had gone cold in her hands. Her heart wasn't racing anymore. It had simply given up. She whispered to herself, "It wasn't me." But the voice sounded uncertain, like she was trying to convince someone she couldn't see. She rushed to the lobby. The night air was thick, unmoving. The lights buzzed softly, casting halos on the walls. At her mailbox, a small brown package sat inside, wrapped in paper, tied with red string. Her hands trembled as she untied it. Inside, a tiny mirror, not cracked, but blurred, as if smeared with breath. A white envelope, and a printed name tag. Sakura Aiba, room 302. She dropped it all on the floor and backed away. Her breathing came in short gasps. Something inside her head whispered, "You're just making room." She was always coming back. She didn't sleep that night. She taped her windows shut, locked every door, unplugged every device. But nothing helped, because when she passed by the mirror, her reflection no longer mirrored her. It was delayed, lagging by a second. It watched her move, then smiled. In desperation, she returned to her old emails, trying to find proof of her life. But the messages were corrupted. Dates changed, names blanked out. Even her own signature now read, "Sent by unknown user." She tried logging into social media. Account not found. She searched her own name online. No results. Not even the ones she had seen before, as if she had never existed. Then came the knock. Not on the door, on the wall. 3 knocks, same rhythm, same place, every night. On the 4th night, she whispered back, "What do you want?" No answer, only the sound of breathing. And then, softly, like a child mimicking her, "What do you want?" She pressed her forehead against the wall. It was warm again, too warm, like skin. She whispered, "Please, stop." And something from the other side whispered back, "You were me." Later, she found the photograph again, the one she had torn and flushed. It was back, whole, sitting on her pillow like a gift. In the photo, she stood by the mailbox. Only now, there was no shadow in the reflection. Just her, alone, smiling, wearing the cardigan she had never owned. The same cardigan Sakura wore. She ran to the bathroom, turned on the light, stared into the mirror. This time, her reflection didn't move at all. It simply stared, blank-eyed, lips slightly parted. Then, without blinking, it whispered, "I look better in your skin." Mio fell to the floor, shaking. She grabbed her phone and recorded herself sobbing. "This is proof! I am Mio Kagawa. I live in apartment 302. If anyone sees this, remember me." She saved the file, but seconds later, it disappeared, deleted, gone, replaced by a single file called Sakura Aiba, .mp4. She played it. It showed her sleeping from the foot of the bed, breathing softly, peacefully. But in the corner of the frame, someone else stood watching, just outside the reach of light.
Mio stopped speaking her name out loud. There was no use. Each time she tried, it caught in her throat. The syllables felt borrowed, distant. She no longer recognized them. She stood in front of the mirror for hours now, not out of vanity, not even out of fear, but necessity. Because each time she looked away, her reflection changed, subtly. Hair parting the wrong direction, eyes slightly closer together, a faint scar on the cheek that she didn't have, and the most terrifying change of all, the smile. Not hers, never hers, but it was learning, mimicking, becoming. She tried to cover the mirror, tape, towels, black cloth, but every time she left the room and returned, it was uncovered again, as if it needed to see her, or perhaps as if she needed to be seen. The mirror from the package had begun to hum, not loudly, a faint vibration, like a tuning fork struck just once and left to fade eternally. She placed it on the floor, watched it, and for the first time, it moved. A small ripple passed across its surface, like water, like breath. And in the center of that shimmer, she saw her own face, but older, emptier. And behind that reflection, another, watching, waiting, smiling. That night, Mio took the cracked mirror and the blurred one and placed them side by side. Then she sat between them and whispered, "If you want me, say my name." She waited. The mirrors stayed silent, but her phone buzzed. She didn't pick it up. She knew what it would say. The next morning, the entire building felt wrong. Too quiet, too still. She opened her door and stepped into the hallway. It was darker than usual, longer, endless. She turned to look back. Her door had no number, no peephole, no keyhole, just a blank slab of metal. She ran her fingers across the surface, smooth, featureless. No sign anyone had ever lived there. She rushed downstairs to the mailboxes. Only one was open, room 301. Inside, folded neatly, was a hospital wristband. She picked it up. It read, Sakura Aiba. Admitted April 14th, 2020. Discharged, blank. No discharge date, no end, just a beginning and an open space. She dropped it, backed away. Later, she received an email. No sender, no subject, just a link. She clicked it. It opened to a video. Old, grainy, time-stamped April 2020. CCTV footage from the Komorebi Heights elevator. A woman steps in. Slim, long black hair, pale cardigan. She faces the camera, eyes wide, unblinking. Sakura Aiba. She stands there for a full minute, not moving. Then she speaks. If no one remembers you, the mirror will. She reaches into her pocket, takes out a small mirror, cracked, places it against the camera lens. The screen goes black. Mio turned off her laptop. All the lights in her apartment flickered, once, twice, then held steady. The air had changed, heavier now,
thicker, as if the building itself was breathing through her lungs. She walked to the bathroom, slowly, gripped the edge of the sink, looked into the mirror. This time, her reflection was waiting for her, already staring, already smiling, and when she lifted her hand, the reflection didn't move. Mio whispered, "Who are you?" The reflection opened its mouth, but the voice didn't come from the mirror. It came from the wall, from the hallway, from the ceiling, all at once. "I am the one who was left behind, and you are the one who forgot." She slammed the mirror with her fist. The glass didn't shatter. Instead, it absorbed the blow, rippled, and then pulled. She felt her fingertips sink into the surface, cold, slick, like oil or old water. She yanked her hand back, but her fingertips were now blurred, slightly translucent, as if the mirror had taken a part of her. She wrapped her hand in cloth and stumbled back. The hum from the mirror grew louder. She screamed at it, "I remember you!" But the reflection only whispered back, "Then make room." She left the apartment, wandered the streets, tried to find a cafe she once loved. It was gone. Tried calling a friend from university. No answer. Tried buying a coffee. The cashier looked through her. Didn't even blink. Didn't even register her voice. She checked her reflection in the shop window. It was gone. No face. No shape. Just the faint outline of a person. An afterimage. A memory. That night, Mio returned home to find the mirrors multiplying. 2 in the hallway, 1 on the floor of her bedroom, 1 leaning against her closet. Each one reflected a different version of her, a different Sakura. And at the center of each, a mirror within a mirror, an infinite tunnel of eyes, of faces, of strangers who once had names. Mio picked up a marker, stood before the bathroom mirror, and wrote her name in huge letters across the glass, Mio Kayagwa. But the letters smudged as she wrote them. The ink bled, swirled, then reformed into something else. Sakura Aiba. She screamed, clawed at the glass, but it was too late. Her reflection smiled once more and whispered, "Welcome back."
Mio stopped trying to sleep. Sleep had become a thin membrane, a doorway, not a refuge. And every time her eyes closed, something stepped through. So instead, she researched. She scoured old archives, unlisted forums, lost news sites. She didn't search for herself anymore. She searched for Sakura Aiba. And what she found felt like reading her own obituary. Sakura Aiba, age 26. Last seen May 17, 2020. Occupation, copywriter. Lived alone. No known family. Disappearance, officially ruled unresolved. There were no photos in the article. No updates. No one had followed up. As if she had slipped between the pages of the world, unnoticed. But there was one lead, an old blog, a poetry journal from her college days, aiba-sakura.tumblr.com, still online, still forgotten. Mio clicked through. Every post was aching with loneliness. If no one says your name, do you still exist? I think the air forgets me faster than people do. I whispered into the wall again tonight. I think it whispered back. Mio's heart clenched because the words felt familiar, as if she could have written them herself, as if she already had. In one post from April 2020, Sakura had written, "I keep hearing someone breathing through the wall, but I'm not afraid. I think she's just waiting for me to disappear." Mio closed the laptop and sat in silence. She was no longer afraid of Sakura. Not really. She was afraid that what had happened to her was already happening to Mio. She searched the apartment records again, the building registry, the management files. She borrowed a name from a neighbor and pretended to be interested in renting. After hours of digging, she finally found it. Room 302 had no current occupant and hadn't since May 2020. Not room 301, room 302. Her apartment, Mio Kagawa's apartment, had belonged to Sakura Aiba. She stared at the screen, stunned. The dates matched. Sakura hadn't lived below her. She had lived in the same space. She was the one who had moved into her shadow. Suddenly, everything made sense. The way the building rejected her, the mailbox, the mirror, the breathing, the absence of warmth, the absence of self. This wasn't about being haunted. This was about inheritance. Not blood, but vacancy. She had moved into a room that had never been emptied, and now it was reclaiming what it had lost. She paced the room, frantic. "No, no, I'm not her! I'm not her!" She gripped her own shoulders, stared at the mirror, slapped her face, whispered her name over and over. "Mio Kagawa! Mio Kagawa! Mio!" But the mirror whispered back, "You were." Desperate, she returned to the landlord, pounded on his door until he opened it, pale and slow. He looked older than before, tired, as if her presence was wearing him down. "You told me 301 was Sakura's apartment," she snapped. He blinked. "Did I say that?" "You lied!" "No," he said softly. "I forgot." "What do you mean, forgot?" He sighed and rubbed his temples. "When they disappear like that, the building forgets them. I forget them. It's like their names never belonged anywhere to begin with." He looked at her with empty eyes. "I think you're next." Mio staggered back into the stairwell. His words clung to her, not like a threat, like a forecast, a report on weather that had already moved in. In her apartment, she pulled every mirror into one room, sat in the center, surrounded. Every angle filled with versions of herself or Sakura, or something in between. She lit a candle, held it in her lap, and whispered, "I remember you." Her reflection blinked, a dozen versions, all blinking at once. Then, one by one, they began to smile. She reached into her pocket, pulled out a scrap of paper. It was the last letter she had received, the one she had been too afraid to read. She unfolded it with shaking hands. Inside, "You can't save us both. Choose." Mio looked around the room, at herself, at the girl who had come before, at the eyes that had watched from mirrors. There was no malice, only sorrow, only longing. And in that moment, she understood something. Sakura didn't want revenge. She didn't even want to possess. She simply wanted to be remembered, to not dissolve in the silence, to not be the last breath that no one heard. Mio whispered again, "I remember you." One of the reflections nodded.
Another cried, and another stepped forward from the glass. Almost, but not quite. Still trapped on the other side, still waiting. Mio reached out a hand toward the mirror. It was cold, but not lifeless. The reflection reached back. They touched, and in that quiet moment, Mio felt a part of herself let go. In Japan, the dead are not forgotten easily. There are rules, rituals, chants, incense, paper talismans, names carved in stone. Because to forget the dead is to invite them back. Mio walked the streets of Setagaya before sunrise. The city was still sleeping. Only the vending machines hummed. She wandered without direction, like a ghost without purpose, until she found herself standing outside a small wooden temple. It was old, crooked, hidden between two apartment blocks, like it had been built before time was measured in numbers. Inside, the smell of sandalwood and stillness lingered. An old priest swept the stone path with short, deliberate movements. Mio approached him slowly, unsure if she had words left. But when he looked up, he spoke first. "You're fading." She stopped in her tracks. "What?" "You've stepped too far into her shadow," he said softly. "I can feel the weight of it on your shoulders." Tears welled in her eyes. "How do I stop it?" He gestured for her to follow him inside. They sat cross-legged on the tatami, the faint clack of prayer beads between them. He asked for her name. She hesitated. Then, in a breathless whisper, "Mio Kagawa." He nodded once slowly. "Then that is the name we must protect." He explained that names are anchors. In ancient Japanese belief, a name is more than a label. It is a spiritual tether. To speak a name is to give it shape. To remember a name is to keep a soul from unraveling. "But what if no one else remembers me?" she asked. His eyes were kind, tired. "Then you must remember harder." He handed her a brush, a bowl of ink, a thin strip of rice paper. "You must write your name 100 times, without stopping, without error. Each stroke must be deliberate. If you make a mistake, it won't be your name anymore." Mio sat in silence, breathing shadowly. Then she began, "Mio Kagawa, Mio Kagawa." Her fingers trembled, but she wrote again and again and again. By the 37th repetition, her vision blurred. By the 50th, her hands ached. By the 72nd, the letters began to look wrong, backwards, foreign. She blinked through the pain, kept writing. 81, 82, 83. The ink smeared. Her name bled across the page. 95, 96, 97. Her breath hitched. 98, 99. She hesitated. The brush hovered. This was the one that mattered. She closed her eyes and wrote, "Mio Kagawa." The priest nodded. "You have one more task. Go home, burn the mirror, burn the nameplate, and burn the photo." "But she'll be angry," she whispered. "No, she'll be free." That night she returned to Komorebi Heights with the ritual in her hands. A box of matches, a candle, and a scrap of sacred paper he had given her, inscribed with her true name. She sat cross-legged in her living room, surrounded by the cracked mirror, the nameplate that read Sakura Aiba, and the photo that wouldn't stay gone. She lit the candle, held the flame to the photo first. It curled in on itself, blackened edges flaking into ash. No smoke, only the smell of damp earth. Then the mirror. The surface resisted, bubbled, but finally cracked apart, like ice giving way. And lastly, the nameplate. It took the longest to burn, as if something in the ink refused to let go. But eventually, it too turned to ash. She placed the sacred paper into the center of the pile, lit it, and whispered, "I remember your name, but I will not carry it. I give it back to the dark." And the flame turned blue. The apartment fell into silence, utterly silent. No humming lights, no breathing walls, just the faint sound of paper becoming nothing. And for the first time in weeks, Mio felt alone in the way she had always wanted, peacefully. She cleaned the floor with salt, hung a slip of rice paper above the door with her name written in red ink, and taped a final note to the mailbox. "This room is full. There is no vacancy." Later, as she lay in bed, she felt the walls exhale. The tension drained from the ceiling. No knock, no breath, no shadow, only silence. And in that silence, her name returned. She could say it again. Mio.
The night was still. The kind of stillness that doesn't bring peace, but silence. Heavy silence, like something ancient had finally heard its name whispered and was turning back. Mio sat awake, wrapped in a blanket, eyes on the door. Candles flickered along the walls. The priest had warned her, "The forgetting will fight back," and he had been right. Because something was moving now, not in the hallway, inside the walls. At 2:57 a.m., the knocking started, but not from room 301. It came from every direction at once, behind the fridge, inside the mirror, under the floorboards. A soft, rhythmic knock, patient, measuring, not a demand, an invitation. At 3 a.m. exactly, the lights in the apartment dimmed, one by one, as if something was lowering a veil. Mio stood in the center of the room, holding the sacred strip of paper, her name still written in red ink. It pulsed faintly with warmth, a heartbeat against her fingers. Then, the door to room 301 opened, all on its own, for the first time. And inside was her own apartment, mirror for mirror, chair for chair, candle for candle, except everything inside was reversed, a reflection, perfect, cold, waiting. And standing in the center of it was herself, but not quite. Paler, stiller, eyes like paper left out in the rain, and on her chest, pinned like a badge, Sakura Aiba. The reflection didn't speak. It simply raised a hand and motioned for her to step inside. Mio didn't move. Her knees shook, her breath caught, but her fingers tightened around the paper. "I'm not yours. This name is mine." The reflection tilted its head. Then, for the first time, it spoke, but not with words. Its mouth didn't move. The voice came from everywhere, from inside Mio's head, from the mirror, from the breath of the building itself. "You never wanted the life, just the quiet, just the forgetting.
So let me take the rest. Mio shook her head. You're not me. Not yet. The lights in the mirrored apartment flared, then went out, all at once, and the reflection stepped forward, crossing the threshold, into her world. Mio backed up, raised the paper like a weapon, but the reflection raised one hand, palm up, and whispered, "Erase me instead." Mio froze. What? The reflection stepped closer, its face twitching, cracking slightly, like porcelain drying too fast. If you burn my name, if you cast it out, I will vanish, but so will the room, so will the memory, so will the proof we ever existed. You'll remain, but alone, completely. And next time, there won't be a name to anchor you. Tears welled in Mio's eyes. She looked down at the paper. The ink had started to fade. Even now, her own name was fighting to survive. This was it. The choice. Keep her own identity, or carry someone else's memory, so no one else would be erased. She stepped forward, reached into her pocket, pulled out the nameplate she had taken from the mailbox that morning. Sakura Aiba. She held it between them and whispered, "You deserved to be remembered." The reflection began to cry, silently, tears that didn't fall, just glitched like static running down glass. Mio pressed the nameplate into her own palm, held it tight, then lifted the sacred paper and ripped it in half. The lights shattered, the candles snuffed out, wind screamed through the seams of the building, but her body remained still, and the reflection stepped back, nodded, smiled, and finally faded. Mio collapsed to the floor, gasping. She didn't know how long she lay there. Could have been minutes, could have been hours. When she opened her eyes, the apartment felt lighter. No mirrors cracked, no names crossed out, just her and silence. She walked to the mailbox the next morning, expecting to see nothing, but instead, 2 nameplates, side by side, Mio Kagawa, Sakura Aiba, one above the other, both clear, both intact, no scratches, no smears, just names, coexisting, not fighting, just remembered. She reached into the mailbox, found one last letter, short, unfolded carefully. It read, "Thank you for not forgetting me. I'll make room." Morning came, but not suddenly, like mist pulling back from the edges of a mirror. Mio stood at the window, watching the street below. The sky was gray, but not heavy. No shadows stretched from corners, no whispers behind walls, no mirrors trying to remember her face. Only breath. Her breath, rising, falling, steady, real. She dressed slowly, folded the blanket on her bed with care, opened the window to let in the breeze, and for the first time in weeks, she didn't check her reflection. She didn't need to. Downstairs, the mailboxes stood silent in their steel rows. She traced her fingers along the labels. Her name was still there, Mio Kagawa. Below it,
unchanged. Sakura Aiba. No one had removed it. No one had overwritten it. And somehow, it felt right. Not like haunting, not like possession, but like two names carved into the same tree, each growing in different directions, each held in the other's shadow. She found the landlord sweeping the entryway, as he always did. He glanced up at her, then smiled. Warm, small, familiar. "You look better," he said. Mio nodded. "Thank you for remembering me." He paused, hand tightening slightly on the broom. "Of course," he said, like he wasn't entirely sure what she meant, but his eyes glistened. Back in her apartment, the air felt different, warmer, brighter. Still quiet, but not the kind of quiet that threatens, the kind that comforts, like a long exhale after grief. She passed the mirror in the hallway, didn't stop, but from the corner of her eye, she saw her reflection move in sync. No lag, no mimicry, just her. Tired, strong, alive. Her phone buzzed, a message from Yui. "Sorry I missed your message. You okay?" Mio stared at it for a long time, then typed slowly, "I think so." She hit send. The message didn't vanish, didn't glitch, just waited for a reply, like people do. That night, she found the old nameplate again, resting on her desk. Sakura Aiba. She turned it over, scratched lightly into the back. "If they forget me again, will you remember twice as hard?" She smiled and whispered into the room, "I will." She placed the nameplate gently into a box, alongside the charred photo, the cracked mirror, now quiet, and a folded letter. She sealed the box, wrote a label on the lid. Memory. Do not erase. Time passed. The city moved on. New tenants came and went. The apartment aged. The paint peeled. But the mailbox at 302 always had two names. Some neighbors found it odd. Some assumed it was shared. But no one ever removed the second one. And no one questioned the girl who lived there. Quiet, kind, always alone, but never quite lonely. Until one day, a new tenant arrived. Young, tired-looking. Moved into 301 with only 2 bags and a kettle. Didn't talk much. Didn't make noise. And when she checked the mailbox that first evening, she frowned. Her name wasn't there, just a blank slot. And above it, a tag that read, Sakura Aiba, welcome home. But she didn't remove it, didn't question it. She just reached into the slot and pulled out a letter addressed to the girl who came after. Inside was a note. If you feel like you're fading, say your name out loud. And if no one hears it, I will. Because ghosts are not always vengeful. Sometimes they're just trying to remember who they were and hoping someone else will too.